O'er all the sonnets of the bard, o'er all the poet's ditties, the sweetest music on record, the paplin of the pretties. Of all the crowns the farmers toil, of all the crops that fit us, crop never yet produced the soil, like to the darling pretties. But och alas, they are no more, now grief does fairly spit us. O we may moil and delve and bore, and weep our blighted pretties. The poor man's wains, a hungry gra, their gurnings sorely hit us, now wipe their tears so soon away, as did the smiling pretties.
There's a walled patch of ground off Corona Park in Newtownards. Some people call it the Pauper's Graveyard, others know it as Bully's Acre. Few know its famine history. Potato crops fail in Newtownards in the summer of 1846. The workhouse is quickly overwhelmed. Fever rips through the town. By 1847, Newtownards is fully in the grip of An Gorta Mór, the Great Famine. A contemporary account from a Methodist minister, Reverend Samuel Nicholson, recalls that Newtownards suffered from the hunger more than any other town in the north. In Mill Street, Nicholson visits a woman dying of dysentery, lying in a cold house on a little damp straw on the ground. One of her children is dead beside her. Nicholson writes letters to the newspapers, raising the alarm. I visited a woman in East Street who was ill of fever. I found my way into a miserable garret, and there lay, close to the slates, a wretched human being in the agonies of death, without bed, sheet, or covering of any kind but some old rags, and nothing under her but a handful of straw. The condition of the apartment where she lay would baffle description. I also visited a family in Greenwell Street who received assistance from our fund. When I entered the house, I was almost choked with the odour which met me from the back door, and I had to retreat to the open air before I engaged in prayer with the family. The front pages of the newspapers present a picture of a busy, prosperous region with plenty of food and luxury items for those who can afford it. The letters pages on the inside, though, tell a different story. In February 1847, an anonymous traveller writes to the Banner of Ulster.
In Drumahirk, I called in one house occupied by a man named Robertson. His family consisted of himself, his wife, and 6 children. He had been engaged in November as a labourer and had not worked since. He was obliged to live for an entire week upon the price of a solitary stone of meal. They had no assistance. Every one of the family had dysentery, arising from lacking the common necessaries of life. One poor suffering child lay ill, very ill. The poor little thing was worn to a living skeleton. Flesh could not be detected on its bones, and its fingers were attenuated as if in death after a lingering illness. That is not all, however, in this case. The rent of their cabin still has to be paid.
In 1847, a traveller to the town records visiting between 30 and 40 dwellings. In 9 out of every 10, people are in a wretched state. Charitable attempts to feed the poor are well-meaning but inadequate. There's a soup kitchen with food, first for all those who can afford to pay. Those that have a ticket are served next, and whatever is left is given to those without money or ticket. Beyond Newtownards, further down the peninsula, the destitution of small farmers means that there is scarcely any labouring work to go around. When there is work, the wages are a pittance. The Newtownards workhouse was built in 1842 to accommodate 600 paupers. By 1846, it is overflowing. Admission procedures were tightened and extra accommodation was added. The able-bodied are subjected to a strict work regime of physical labour, often breaking stones. By contrast, Lord Londonderry, the landlord for Newtownards, is largely absent. He spends most of his time in Durham, England. He's reluctant to intervene in the unfolding catastrophe. In 1847, Lord Londonderry donates £20 for relief of the poor, which he later increases to £50. In contrast to Lady Londonderry's reputation for generosity, Lord Londonderry's parsimony is mocked in some quarters. He decides there is to be no reduction in rents. But the following year, 1848, the Londonderry family spend £15,000 improving their stately residence at Mount Stewart on the Ards Peninsula. To celebrate and show off his newly appointed residence, Londonderry welcomes 200 guests, among them his chief farmers, to a St. Patrick's Day dinner. Toasts and oaths of loyalty to the crown are made. Londonderry speaks to his guests as if the famine is already over. Lord Londonderry agreed with official government policy that all relief for the poor be carried out through the workhouses. But by 1848, the Newtownards workhouse is desperately overcrowded. While Londonderry was entertaining and regaling his guests, admissions to the workhouse were further restricted due to growing demand for its frugal resources. It wasn't just the workhouse that was under pressure. Newtownards' graveyards were overflowing with the dead, much to the alarm of the town's parishioners and the Board of Guardians. Reverend Nicholson, writing to the Banner of Ulster, said,
I wish to direct your special attention to the cemetery at my villa. The place is in an awful state. The corpses from the workhouse are not sufficiently buried, and of course the air is contaminated in the highest degree. Is not this a most fearful and alarming state of things? To have the smell and the putrid effluvia from human bodies in a state of decomposition, spreading fever and death around? I think there should be a new graveyard obtained, either at the workhouse or some distance from the town. If it be not improved, we may expect fever to increase at an alarming extent, and thousands of the inhabitants of the town cut off and hurried into eternity, and we will have all the horrors of another Skibbereen.
In 1849, the Board of Guardians seek to purchase a new burying ground for the workhouse poor from Lord Londonderry. In 1850, Londonderry obliges, but increases the price of the land from £100 to £115. The excess dead are then buried without ceremony in Bully's Acre. We don't know the names of the people buried in Bully's Acre or how many of them there are, but there are at least 26 other Bully's Acres across Ireland, unmarked mass graves. In 1857, a monument was built to Lord Londonderry on Scrabo Hill, overlooking Newtownards and the surrounding district, a baronial Gothic-style tower that we are told was paid for by Londonderry's grateful tenants to thank him for his generosity during the hunger. But very few of the donors to the building were actual tenants of Londonderry. The tower was never completed, and it is shorter than intended because the project ran out of money. An inscription above the door of the tower reads, "Fame belongs to history, remembrance belongs to us." Today you can see Londonderry's monumental tower from Bully's Acre. Bully's Acre is not visible from the tower.
Titles down. Take your place on this level ground. Come and hear the call. Step up and gather round. We're building on you coming title's done. Take your place on this level ground. Come and hear the call. Step up and gather round. We're building our new common and a new town. We're building